Welcome to week 3 of the Coaches Show. The Greenbacks pick up a big win in Halstead on their first road game, 34-21, and move on to 2-0 on the season after a week 1 win against Hoelting. And once again, joined by head coach Brent Hoelting, 2-0. 4 years straight now, the Greenbacks are 2-0. Got to be a good feeling to pick up 2 wins in a tough schedule and before you get back home for a couple games.
And I think what you said there is important. We all know not all wins are created equal, and this 2-0 feels pretty good knowing we played 2 really good football teams the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, Hoelting, we know about them. We talked about them. Halstead, a good team, good 2A team. We were just talking about it before we got going live. A physical team. We've seen
Big.
2 straight weeks now of physical football.
Yeah, and I think credit to our kids. We're banged up, but they tough through it. We're not going to face many teams all year that are as big and physical as Hoelting or Halstead. Not, they may be more skilled, they may be that, but those 2 teams are really, really physical. And I thought Halstead, to their credit, really stepped it up a notch against us, watching from film week 1 to week 2. And their big guys brought it up front. They were getting off the ball. Number 56, the Herman kid, is a handful for them. He is a really, really good football player. The Faudel kid, he's 290 and can move. And so I thought our kids did a good job of staying the course, matching physicality. And like you said, anytime you can play Hoelting and Halstead and escape with 2 wins, you feel pretty good about it.
And good in league standing as well. 2 league teams. Now the Greenbacks moved to 2-0, not only overall record, but in that chase for the league title. So puts the Greenbacks in the front-running position for that, I'd imagine, as well. So go through some of that game a little bit before we break down just kind of your overall thoughts. Didn't talk with you post-game after that ball game in the booth. So overall thoughts after that win when you touched on the physicality, and we'll get into that. First half was really dominant by the Greenbacks, but overall game as a whole from your perspective.
I thought defensively the first half was impeccable. We can't play much better. They didn't have a first down.
No.
All first half. And we try to get as many 3 and outs as we can. And those are huge. Obviously, we had the one blemish where, Tay got piled up, and he's done so many great things, but, got the ball ripped out at the end of a pile. I was hoping the whistle would blow.
How bad did he want that one back?
He especially after last year, he just turned to the sideline and said, "I got it,
yeah.
Dad," and all right, we trust Tay, and I know what Tay brings every time he runs the ball. He is we talked about it this week. We told our guys, you got to get rolling on blocks. I think we're hesitating too much because Tay's not a dancer; he's a sledgehammer. He's going to come down the hill, and someone's going to get hit. And so if you don't want it to be you better go and get out of the way. And so I thought our defense played incredible. Offensively, the first drive, we looked really good. I thought we got tired some, and we had some sickness last week. We had some guys who didn't practice pretty much all week because they were out sick. So that was tough. Again, to their credit, they toughed it out. But and execution, I thought we were missing some stuff. And going back on film, I didn't think we executed real well offensively, and the film showed that. So the good news is anytime you can get a win against a good football team and not play your best, you'll take it. But I thought defense carried the day for us, especially in the first half. And, we wore down a little bit with some injuries in the second half. And then we were also trying not to give up big plays, and, we were up 3 touchdowns. And so anytime you can go get a road win in CKO, you feel good about it.
Yeah, and a big one it was. Go through some of those stats there. You mentioned the 0 first downs by Halstead in that first half. Ended up 11, Pratt with 16, Halstead 11 first downs on that ball game. The passing attack, still waiting to see that get going from the Greenbacks. Creston, 5 for 11 for 27 yards. Caleb got 1 attempt there, but ended up being an interception there. On the ground, though, that's where the Greenbacks have shown that they're going to dominate ball games, led by senior Tay Wilson, 30 carries for 171 yards and 3 touchdowns. He ended up with 185 all-purpose yards. And then Creston Poor also with 5 carries, 42 yards and a touchdown. Caleb Strong featured a little more on the ground this Friday night, got 70 carries and used those carries wisely, ended with 70 yards and a touchdown, and then Windsor with a couple carries for 5 yards. On the receiving end, Owen Schmidt, 2 catches for 10 yards. Wilson, 2 for 14, and Morrell, the lone catch, for 3 yards. But I want to go back and touch on Caleb Strong, an increased amount of carries for him. We saw him with 3 in week 1 and 7 in week 2, and using those to his advantage, picking up 70 yards on the ground really sparked that first drive. It only took the Greenbacks 4 plays to get into the end zone after receiving the kickoff, and led by that big play by Caleb Strong.
Caleb's a kid. He's grown in confidence every week in terms of the football field. If you know Caleb, he knows what he can do, but I think finding his place on the football field, and he's just getting better and better every day, every practice. He's getting more comfortable. He led us in tackles too, with 12 coming up from safety, and they weren't tackles that he was having to make because they were making 10 or 15 yards. He was reading and coming up. Caleb is really, really instinctual. He's just a really smart football player, and he's a kid that we've got to get the ball to in space because he makes stuff happen. I mean, he's got great hips, he's got great speed, and so he's a kid that I think we've got to keep featuring and getting the ball to in a variety of ways because he's a kid that's a big play waiting to happen anytime he touches it.
Yeah, and we've seen that through just the 2 games so far this season. Fun to see when the ball gets in his hands. We mentioned Tay Wilson and his 185 all-purpose yards. Starting to appear like Tay Wilson is the feature of the offense, or the man that the offense is going to run through.
For sure. I mean, Tay's earned that. You know, he's been a kid that, you know, his sophomore year, he was our blocking back, and then he went to fullback last year, and you know, now he's made the transition to tailback and what we call in our offense. And Tay is just he's steady Eddie. Like, you know what you're going to get from Tay. He never gets too high, too low. He just keeps playing. And he is physical. That's the thing you love about Tay is he's going to make someone earn a tackle every time. You know, we talked to him about, hey, you want to go out of bounds a little more, save up hits? No, I'm punishing them.
That's what you love to see.
And that's what Tay is like. Like, every time you tackle him, you're going to feel it. And I think those add up over time, combined with our offensive line. And like you said, obviously that's our identity. We've got to get the passing game going more. We've got too many weapons. We're just not on the same page. We narrowly missed a few big plays, whether it was a miscommunication on the route, stopping on a route a little early. And I thought Creston grew some. I thought he made better decisions. You know, when he pulled that one down on 3rd and 26 or whatever, and rushed for a first down was a great job.
Great pickup on the scramble.
Big job. I think he's growing every week, and the game is slowing down for him. You know, sometimes we forget. I forget that he missed pretty much all of last year because he got injured early. So I think we're getting better there. But the passing game has definitely been a focus this week in practice, and all that's set up by our physical run game. You know, we want to out-physical everybody. You've heard me talk about it a lot. We want to punch people in the mouth and see if they can take it for 4 quarters. And so that's where identity goes. And then we've got to mix in some play action stuff and get some more explosives.
All right, now let's hop to that defensive side of the ball. The defense, we mentioned that first half performance, which was about as well as you can execute a defense. 0 first downs by Halstead. I think they only had 7 total yards in that first half. 10 tackles for losses throughout the game, 2 by Morrell. Caleb Strong, like you mentioned, led the team with 12 total tackles. Gatlin, Morrell, Wilson, all with a sack, and then 3 forced fumbles from Roop, Gatlin, and Morrell. And Arlie Morrell quickly closing in on the single-season record. And then you look at the career record, which I saw was 11, and he's just a junior, and that's not too far out of reach either. But that Greenback defense, speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, and again, I think it all starts up front. You know, our D-backs have been great and linebackers, but up front, you know, when you get pressure, I don't care if you're an accurate quarterback or not, you know, when you hear footsteps and you start getting pressure, and Coach Brown did a great job, called a great game. We had some really timely blitzes. They were really backpedaling their tackles because they were scared of our DNs a little bit rushing. You know, they saw what Arlie did the first game, so that opened up some huge gaps. Obviously, Tay had the monster hit, and Luke had a great hit on one, and Arlie, they backed up so much. You know, he ducked inside, got the hit, the strip sack, and recovered the fumble. Thought we had another one in the end zone.
I did too.
That should have been called, especially going back on film when we watched it. You know, I know they don't get the benefit of slow-mo like we do. So I think it all starts up front. And not only that, they anchored really well. And that group's going to be a tough group to run against. And then on the back end, if we can just do our job and play off those guys, it makes it a lot easier for us. And I think our defense is getting better and better every week, just communication, growing together. And I think they're going to be a good unit all year long.
Well, in that front 4, you know, it's one thing to limit a quarterback to passing yards, but then they're not also letting them convert them to scrambles and get out of the pocket. You know, Creed was held to 7 passing yards, I think, on the night, but he didn't have many rushing yards either. So not only is that front 4 that you mentioned able to, you know, force the quarterback to tuck it and scramble, he's got nowhere to scramble on that front 4 either. You know, the pursuit gets there, that front 4 contains him enough, and it's not – a lot of times you see athletic quarterbacks – they might not have the passing yards, but then they'll beat you on the ground.
Right.
We haven't seen that yet.
And you know, last year, just case in point, I think, you know, Creed had well over 200 yards passing against us, and he was back a year better. And for us to hold him to 7 yards, I thought was tremendous growth of our defense. The first 2 weeks, tremendous growth in the secondary, and like you said, that you got some speed. Arlie is just so daggone long and so athletic. He is just learning and getting better and better every week. Colin is also steady. Like he's going to do his job, and he's going to do it great every time. Ethan is an X factor there, and then we can rotate Huddy and those guys in. And then Ethan, he comes in, and man, he's tough to block on the backside. He's so dang quick and disruptive. And I thought, like you said, those tackles for loss are huge, because then you get teams in situations they're not comfortable in, third and longs, and then we can kind of dictate, instead of them dictating what they want to do to us, we can kind of dictate what we can do with the blitzes and the pressures and stuff like that.
I wanted to, I had it marked down here. I wanted to touch on, and it's not going back and second guessing, officials or anything like that, but more of a point of clarification. There was a hit on Caleb Strong. He went up for the ball, left his feet, got hit, and we weren't sure on air either what the flag was. I thought it just looked like a good tough hit, a good football play. I can't remember the player for Halstead.
10 years ago it would have been.
I think that's what I think we had a back in my day reference, on that play. But it was just a good physical hit. Looked like they ended up throwing a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct or personal flag, and we heard later that you've got an attempt to wrap up on a play like that. So just for because we had a lot of people
you got to
saying,
lead with your hands and attempt to wrap up when a receiver is in a vulnerable position.
Okay.
Now once he has the ball, you can hit like that, and it would have been fine. But when you're going to break up a pass, wherever, you have to lead with your hands when they're in a vulnerable position. Okay. So and I don't think they were gonna. I had to kind of coax that one. There was a late flag, and I was like, hey, that's defenseless. Like, he's got to lead with his hands.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was pass interference, but he's got to lead with his hands, and he's got to wrap, and they didn't do either. And they talked about it for a little bit, like, yeah, he didn't, and that's when they decided to throw the flag. So that was a good call. But that's something, we don't want to leave that ball. That was a miscommunication one. Caleb, we're supposed to have the guy over top and cut that short. Caleb did a great job. Creston just kind of miscommunicated that one, thought he was going to keep going and threw it ahead. And, it's just one of those things, like I said, it comes with experience. We clean up.
Yeah. Awards for the night. We talked about a few earlier, but let's run down them here in the booth. I'll give you ours, and we'll see once again how close we are. I think we're going to have a few different ones here tonight. One I know we're not going to differ on. The Meade Lumber hit stick of the ball game. Not only have we talked about it, but a lot of people were talking about that one from Tay Wilson. Got the blitz call from D coordinator Anthony Brown. Came in there just untouched, and you can see it. I don't know if people were watching the Halstead feed or listening on air, but there's a couple different views of that play. And like you said before we got going, one of the better hits we've seen in quite a while.
That was one of those picture perfect, like teach tape hits. Like he turned, he wrapped, that wrestling background came in and he tattooed him. And I'll be honest, I was surprised he got up. That's show a little toughness by the Creed kid. But Tay didn't let up. I mean, he timed it perfectly. That was one of those that, man, that is fun. Yeah, that's
when you're a player on defense and you get blitz called and it's your opportunity. Like, that's what you're envisioning. That's what you hope happens is that the quarterback doesn't see you coming until the last minute, and it couldn't have been more perfect timing for Tay.
That is a dream scenario. And that was the hit stick for sure.
Oh yeah, so that one definitely on page there. Our State Farm player of the game. We could have given it to Wilson again, had a big night. We mentioned the 3 touchdowns and the 185 all-purpose yards, but we gave it to the defensive unit as a whole. We just thought that defensive performance, again, another consecutive week that the defense and what they did that first half and then continued into the second half. We threw that one out as a group award to the defense.
Our overall game MVP actually went to because I thought, and we talked about him earlier, but just impact, both offense and defense, both ways. That Caleb Strong just had a great game. Huge rushing yards for us, scored a rushing touchdown, and then led us in tackles on defense and was everywhere. And their counter really killed us last year. They killed us with counter coming back the other way, and they didn't have a chance to run it the other night with Caleb. In fact, their counter got no yards at all, I don't think, or negative on the night. Because he read it so daggum well. And so we thought he was the overall game MVP. Like you said, Tay's going to be in the running every week.
Right.
I mean, he's focal point and he's a stud.
Yeah.
But we thought Caleb had a great game, both offensively and defensively. So he got the game MVP.
It's nice as a coach when you've got multiple, when it's a tough decision of who to give your awards to. When you've got multiple people or players or units where you're like, man, it's all deserving to any of them. That's a good spot to be in.
It's much better to do that than say, hey, do we have to give this award out this week? Or,
which I've heard you say that a few times.
We've had those weeks. And then offensive MVP, And defensive MVP, we give those out, scout team, and then special teams. I thought, special teams, Arlie had a couple great punts.
Yeah, first time we've seen you guys punt this season. Didn't punt at all against Hoisington.
I told him I don't ever want to give this to you again unless you're blocking punts. But we don't want to punt anymore.
He did have the big chase down on the missed snap on Halstead on the defensive side of punting as well.
Yeah, that's right. And he had that as well. So we gave that to him. And then special team, or not special team, scout team player of the week. I'll tell you, a kid I'm really excited about his future. He gets in everything, never complains, and we pull, we bring a lot of bodies. We're physical by nature, and we try to teach that in practice too. And he doesn't, sometimes you get a defensive end on scout team that says, I'm not getting hit by Josiah Schmidt or Hudson Rector or Colin Strong anymore. I'm going to run the other way, and he never does. But August Deeds was our scout team player of the week. He does a fantastic job, and he's going to be a really good football player for us. So really proud of him. Defensive, I thought and we talked about this as coaches for a while. We talked about collectively, like you said, but I just thought the way he comes in, and he is our top backup at both D tackle spots, at both outside linebackers, at both inside, and he came in and played most of the game and played a really good football game. Luke Gatlin,
he had a great night.
Yeah. He had a great night, and then offensive, like you said, we really kind of talked about that and kind of gave it as a whole to people, but thought Tay just had a great game offensively. He's just, like we said, he's who he is every game, and does a great job there. So.
Yeah. So match one more that we have that you don't have. We have the Farm Bureau fan of the game. This one, so I don't know if you saw it after the game or throughout the week. We did something new this week with our broadcast. We had a play-by-play bingo card. Oh, you heard that? Means it's spreading like wildfire. Yeah. Great. That's what we try to do around here.
I just thought it was no surprise that Katie beat Chris at something again.
Yeah. So aptly named. It was the Farm Bureau fan of the game, and Katie Westerhouse, our fan of the game. So anybody out there who doesn't know what we're talking about, we had a play-by-play bingo card. Let me see how they can pull it up here on the screen here, of just a lot of random play-by-play phrases, and some of them probably specific to kind of the way we call a game. Yeah. But if you listen to the broadcast, you could play that bingo card along with the broadcast. And gave out some $20 Legends gift cards to Katie, and Dustin Hildebrand as well was following along, sent us their completed bingo card. So we're going to keep doing it the rest of the season.
You got to get more Kellyisms in there.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with those.
You got to be careful. You got to be PG.
Yeah. So that wraps up our awards. So congrats to everybody there, players and fans alike. And like I said, the bingo game, we're going to keep it going. As viral is our goal.
What you talk about, it's been fun. And Pratt's such a great football town anyway. But man, it has been a lot of fun. I know already started when I go out, get gas, whatever. How many people are so excited about football season?
Yeah.
And everything. You guys do a great job.
We try to do our best, but
it's a lot of fun.
Pratt football is just, it's fun when it's that time of the year. The town and everybody knows how well it's supported, and home games are great, and got a big one coming up this week.
Before we go on to that though, I do want to talk about how awesome our volleyball team's been the last week.
I was going to touch that. Go ahead.
Hugoton last weekend. Those girls came out and kept fighting. One Hugoton got some revenge on Nickerson and beat a good Smoky Valley team.
Yeah, that was a heck of a game last night up there at where'd we go? Went to Nickerson.
At Nickerson and didn't fold. Lost the first set, right? Both of them.
Came back and beat a very good Smoky Valley team. That's the best I've seen them play all season.
And then congratulations obviously goes out to Ryan, East Sheardaughter, who's had a heck of a career. Is a great volleyball player and got her 1,000th assist.
Yep, picked up 1,000 career assists.
Pretty awesome
man,
stuff.
She loves her volleyball, so it was neat to kind of see her not cap her career off, but to achieve that.
That's
this season.
Proud dad moment. Should be.
Yeah. So
really
it was neat to see her do that and get that posted and everything. So definitely proud of her.
Very cool.
So let's see. On to Larned now. Boy, Larned's always a big rivalry. Get them at home this year. Went there week 1 last year, so a little different on the schedule. But anytime Pratt gets to face Larned, there's always that rivalry. There's always that extra. There's a few of those teams out there. Hoisington's one, Larned's one,
Right.
Kingman used to be one. We don't play them nearly as often
we
or
tried.
at all.
We tried.
anymore.
Talk Coach Beam.
Dusty. Dusty, if you're watching this, So
we need to get that rivalry back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I was looking 78 meetings between the two teams. First time.
I know that's
first time. the Greenbacks and the Indians met was about 2 months before Pearl Harbor, 1941. Yeah, I know. When you look at that, like, you can't believe
I know
the
them
history.
and Kingman are by far
Yeah.
our most played games.
Yeah. So the Greenbacks 51, 25, and 2 all time in that record. So do lead in that rivalry matchup. But as far as Larned goes, they had a good week 1 win over Smoky Valley, 36-24, and then lost to Hillsboro 35-8 in week 2. And head coach Brady Keith comes in his second year and really had a good first year for the Indians. Went 6-3 last season, their first winning season since 2017. So kind of turning that program around, and watching them on film, they run more kind of what I grew up playing football, power football. You see a lot of robust formation for anybody that remembers old 90s Greenback football and power I. So a more traditional power offense is, I expect, to what we'll see this Friday night against the Indians.
Yeah. They want to go double tight a lot. Power I, like you said, they want to pound it and then reverse out. Their quarterback is a really, really good athlete.
Yeah,
he's a good football player. Good athlete. They want to get him on the edge. He does a great job. You know, we'll be tested. You talked about that D line. We'll be tested scrambling around because he's really good at buying time. So I think we have to stay on that. And then they're big up front again. They're really big up front. So we got to, again, put on our hard hats and be very physical. I think they're a team that we got to beat at the point of attack. They also, kind of like us, bring a lot of guys to the point of attack. So it's important to be very physical there and muddy it up, you know, and make it to where they don't have lanes to run through, and then all your pursuit and all your guys can catch up. You got 11 guys running the football.
What's the message on a rivalry game like this, whether it's Hoisington or Larned or some of those other big rivalries, to make sure your players don't get too amped up and kind of distracted by that rivalry and just go out and play football?
You know, we've talked about after last week, I told you I've been really disappointed. I think offensively we just haven't been as crisp as we need to be, and that falls on me. Ultimately, we've got to be better. There's just some simple mistakes we're making. So we've really focused on us this week. We talked about, like, if you want to be a great team, then you're going to get better every day. And that's what we've got to start doing. We had great practice today. I think our focus has been on us, and then said, hey, we need to come out and execute. We need to show people what we can do. And that means Larned's in our path. It's Larned. They're a huge rival. So let's take it out on them in the process, and let's go have a well-executed game that we play like we're capable of playing on all 3 phases in football. Should
be a great night at Zerger Park. Again, that's a home game for the Greenbacks. 7 o'clock kickoff here at Zerger Park. Also, Friday night, is this the Junior Greenbacks?
Junior Greenbacks
as well.
Yep,
so if you've got to get, do you have the details on that? I can put you on the spot here.
If you wear your jersey that you're playing or your Junior Greenback football camp shirt, you get in for free. You can come down at 6 o'clock. You can stand on our sideline while we're warming up. You know, be there. You can come down by 5:50. You can watch the Greenbacks warm up if they want on the sideline. You know, we'll give them 5. Line us up out on the field as we go in. We'll give them all 5s, and it should be a great night of football. You know, they get to come there and watch. And then also, I think there's a big, really cool thing. A Pratt alum is painting a live painting.
So Shane Steiner, class of 94, they're having their reunion this Friday night, not next week with the homecoming stuff, but they're doing it Friday night in that Larned game. And Shane Steiner he's a Pratt graduate, class of 94, and he's a live event artist. I'm not sure what his official title is, but he'll be doing a live painting somewhere there on the track. Yeah, and it'll be auctioned off. I imagine. I don't have the details on it in front of me, but I imagine it'll be auctioned off during the game or at some point
raffle tickets
in the game. Yeah. So that'll be neat to see.
Yeah.
He does a great job. And like I said, an alumni here of Pratt High, so it'll be fun to see some of those guys. That's getting into the era of guys that I know. That's makes me feel old. At 94, I'm like, I know those guys. So it'll be fun to see some of those guys back in Pratt, and hope that the Pratt faithful comes out to join us as well. A big night, Pratt versus the Larned Indians. Friday night kickoff. Coach, good luck, and thanks for sitting down with us.